Well, once again, everybody, this is a fantastic time for all of us. It's Agnes and Dan Vivarelli. And actually, we're doing a really, really crazy concept that a lot of us kind of throw around. We're like, everything's this, and it's us pushed out, right? It's one of the biggest questions that I think a lot of us talk about, a lot of us really believe in. And Agnes and I decided, right, we were going to talk about this today. So, like, Agnes, like, us pushed out is probably, you give us the kind of understanding of just the general, like here's the 50-word version of us pushed out. Oh, by the way, hello. I guess maybe we should say hello, right? Not just jump right in. But yeah, us pushed out. What's going on with it?
Okay. Well, the first time I heard everyone is you pushed out, it was from Neville. And he talked about the whole world is you pushed out, or everyone is you pushed out. And it is the concept of that everything that is around you, what you're living in your relationships with people, your money, your health condition, your job, your relationships with family, is around you because on some level you are projecting something that is a magnet that corresponds with the external 3D situation. So that is it in a very short nutshell.
Which, by the way, just a quick future tell here. Think about it. That's kind of exactly what we're talking about with how we affect our realities. Hello, law of attraction, all that stuff. And this is us pushed out. It's kind of the same thing. So
it is. And also, another thing is the Ho'oponopono, because the Ho'oponopono talks about dissolving the part of you that created something externally. So that too, that these things all dovetail together.
And that's like the astral letters thing that I talk about frequently as well. It's removing that thing that is blocking you. It's a blockage. It's like an energy blockage in reality, frankly. But that Ho'oponopono is the same thing as kind of cutting that thing in the past. You're rubbing out, I think, is even kind of similar to a degree. Like it does, right? Like it's kind of trying to kind of remove aspects.
Something.
Yeah. So again, I think a beautiful point. So we had a couple questions that were brought to us by a viewer, and we thought we would kind of start there. And I think they're good ones. And that's where I think this us pushed out. A lot of people ask a lot of questions. We see them in the comments. Like Agnes and I have both done a few videos on this. You, I'm sure, probably even more. But I've definitely done probably half a dozen videos on this concept of us pushed out. And I think I have a slightly different take on it. There's places where you and I for sure, well, I think 100% agree. And there's a couple places where I think we're just maybe a little different. And I'd love to see like your perspective a little better, because I think it's going to help me understand it better as a person, and hopefully our viewers. That's more important. But I don't know, frankly. The world revolves around Dan, huh? No?
Nothing wrong with that.
No, that's not at all. All right, so the first question that she had was, when a girl meets a guy and they date for about a month or two, and he says he doesn't want a relationship, but after sex gets involved, he starts to pull away. Like, what happens in that case? The us pushed out thing, like, all of a sudden, I don't know, things are weird. Suddenly we give it up, and all this, and then we lose them. It's almost like what's going on there? What do you think?
Okay. The first thing when I read that question was a very primitive thing. Sometimes you just don't like someone's smell. Now, this is a side salad to everyone's you pushed out. You may be seeing someone and you feel connected to them and all that stuff, and then you get into bed with them and you just do not like the way that their body smells. You don't like, and I'm not talking perfume or cologne or any of that stuff.
Pheromones.
Yeah.
The good stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was the first thing that jumped into my head when I read that, because I know that happens. I've heard it. I've heard of it in people coming to me for coaching, and I've also had that experience myself where you just do not like someone's smell. I mean, it's a primitive animalistic thing. So,
and sometimes a little bit of that animal part too is missing. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Right?
The animal part. Anyway. So looking back at the question from everyone's you pushed out point of view. So the girl meets the guy and they date for about a month or two, and he says he doesn't want a relationship. So my question would be, and I'm looking at this from the woman's point of view, if you know, and he said he doesn't want a relationship, and then you go and sleep with him, it kind of is common sense that he would pull away.
Yes.
Now, from the everyone's you pushed out point of view, from the woman's point of view, what are you projecting about yourself if you're getting that result? Because it's not about him and what he's doing. It's about you and what you're doing. In this case, the woman, because we're talking about what the guy's doing. So as the woman, if he's pulling away, you say, okay, rather than saying, why is he pulling away? We just had sex. He's now gone. And you go into something, look back at what you went into before. Did you have thoughts of, and this is what I see again and again and again, because I coach people on this again and again and again, is you're going into sex with the notion of, what if he doesn't like me? What if he doesn't want me? What if I'm not good enough? As in physically, as a relationship. What if I'm just not good enough in general? So you're projecting all this before you meet up with someone. You go into your old fears, your old not good enough stuff. And then the relationship, which ends up in the bedroom, which ends up with him pulling away, it's just like when you toss the pebble into the pond, they're just ripples that continue out. The ripples are what you projected. You don't get stuff like that in your external world unless you have done something projecting stuff about yourself. I'm not good enough. I'm not beautiful enough. I don't have a nice enough bum. I'm not thin enough. I'm not whatever. Or you're thinking stuff about him. Men only want sex. Men can't commit. Men just use me for sex. You know, women always say this about men, and it's true. So you're doing the self-fulfilling prophecy thing. So you got to look at what you're bringing into the fact that, I mean, the red flag for me in this question was, he said after a month or two he doesn't want a relationship, but then you still went and had sex with him. So why did you lower your self-love to go and have sex with someone who doesn't want a relationship if, and this doesn't say this in this question, if you wanted a relationship, why did you go and have sex with him? Why did you do that to yourself? So you got to take responsibility. And this is what everyone's you pushed out is there for, is to show you the mirror of what you're doing to yourself. And that's when the Ho'oponopono comes in. You work on dissolving the part of yourself that you put yourself in harm's way.
Okay, right off the bat.
You go.
Awesome. This is awesome because I 100% agree with you. And I think you nailed it with the projection and all that stuff. I think that's exactly it. And I guess the way I kind of wanted to take it, since we completely agree, is I was going to offer the guy kind of perspective of this.
Yeah.
So you're this girl that's in this situation, right, where you're looking for a relationship, and you get with this guy, and he's like, I don't want a relationship. I don't want a relationship. I don't want a relationship. And you're like, sure you will. Let's have sex. That is not necessarily, that's not going to get a relationship for sure, because the guy already said he doesn't want that. And the guy, from his standpoint, he's like, why can't I just find people that don't want relationships all the time?
Yes.
You know, and that's the kind of guy you attracted. Dudes ask 12 women, exaggerating a little, a night to find the one that goes, well, yeah, right? Like, that is how it works out for us. It's a numbers game. That's why some dudes have lines, right? And some lines, albeit very creative, you know, like, are you tired? You've been running in my mind all night. They're like, really? Like, you just said that to people, human beings you said that to. That's not okay in any country. At least I think 12 have banned it.
In any country.
Yes, it's not okay. It's not. So, again, a lot of things kind of happen in that whole, this is how the worlds play out. And that particular guy has his own us pushed out aspects going on.
Yeah.
And so his bling, bling, like sonar's going on. And then you're over there going bling, bling. And he's like, oh, similar, bling. And you're like, bling. And he's like, bling. And all of a sudden you get together and you have this ridiculous 2 months together. And then you have sex. And then he goes, bling, bling, bling. And that's it. And that's what you attracted. And all of a sudden you sit down, and the thing that Agnes and I always unfortunately talk about is the self-love.
Yeah.
I said it, Agnes, I'm sorry. But self-love, sometimes as you start doing that, you start to realize some of these things you do. So it's very good. So that was my little bit of color I thought was worth adding, because I completely agree with you. So Agnes and I so the next question, let's just see what goes on here. Girl meets guy.
Yeah.
They start to date, and later finds out he's married, right? Or is in a relationship or whatever. So I guess, I mean, the one thing she brings too is she did ask. So I did ask, he lied. Yeah. And then later. So first off, he kind of lied. I just want to say, just put a little quotes around that. I'm saying it.
Okay. So girl meets guy, starts to date, later finds out he's married or in a relationship, especially if she asked in the beginning if he lied about it. So you already had a feeling. Otherwise, you wouldn't have asked. Why do you ask someone if they are... I mean, she would have obviously asked, are you married or are you in a relationship? And the person said no. Okay, so you find out later that he lied. Yeah. But the thing is, you do not attract people that do that. You are the common denominator. It doesn't matter whether he lied or he didn't. Yeah. You attracted that human being in that condition in the first place. They don't hover around you unless you have a matching component. And what I mean by that is there's got to be on some level that you feel not good enough, unworthy, undeserving, second best on some level.
Believe all people lie, believe all guys are liars, believe some weird belief that helps support the
all men are I find the one a lot of women believe in these situations is all men are players. That's a reoccurring thing that comes from their mothers, their grandmothers, and they believe that. Yeah.
No, that's 100% right. But the way you bring about, exactly. We attract that to ourselves. I really think the last question was the same kind of concept where us pushed out, I still kind of feel like we're all these little individual pulsating things. And when we finally, we're broadcasting a specific need because usually of how we believe of ourselves. And that can be like, I am the most amazing person. All these wonderful things happen to me. Blah, blah, blah. And you literally believe that. Believe me, those are the people that always have good luck. All these weird things happen, right? And then there's the rest of us that have actual insecurities and things like that we're working through. Yeah. And we'll find that as we work through these insecurities, while we're having these fears in our lives, we actually pulsate out a specific frequency that attracts this other weird set of moths to our porch light. And then they F with our lives in some weird way. And we're like, why does this happen? That's not me pushed out. That guy was a jerk. And it's like, but you attracted the jerk to you. And that's the us pushed out part. It's like, I'm requesting a jerk from the universe. Universe, I need a jerk. Anyone? Yeah. Anyone? Oh, Brad's your name? Come on over. Let's talk, Brad. Oh, wow. You're such a jerk. Like, that's how it works. So
I know. And it's hardcore, this everyone's you pushed out, because I know that it's easy to say, but I didn't know he was a narcissist. He was like that before I met him. I didn't create that. It's like, no, you didn't cause it. You can't cure it. But why are you in front of that person? Why are you in their orbit? Why are you in the pod with them currently?
Right.
Why?
Because otherwise you would have walked up to him and said, Brad, no, thank you.
No, thanks.
Yeah, you would have just instantly been repelled by their odd energy, and then finding someone else that's loving and harmonious and wants to make babies by the dozens, right? And then you're like, well, there's of course, that's who would want to do that, but I'm just saying, right? But it's the same thing. Yeah. Like, whatever you're looking for is what you will find, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's not what you say you're looking for; it's what you feel.
Yeah, it's like
it's your default thing. That's the default thing is the magnet, not what you say. It's the default, as in what you really feel about men, what you really feel about women, what you really feel about relationships, about yourself, about what you saw growing up. It is the blueprint until you become conscious enough to go, hang on a minute, I keep attracting the same guy that has no job and is in debt
Yeah.
And he keeps having affairs with other women. So
And
hang on,
hates his
same guy,
mother.
different
It's
clothes.
really weird.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's always happening. Yeah.
And I think too, Dan, because this is coming up a lot in coaching.
And why do you
people
keep describing me, by the way? I don't know. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But you've changed so much.
I'm working through it. I'm coming to terms. Sorry.
You're getting so much better.
I am stronger now every day.
You are. What was I going to say? The speed. People get to know people, but they accelerate. You know, I hear this like at least 50 times a week. You know, there was so much connection and chemistry, and we got into a relationship so fast. It's like ding, 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 ding.
Really brightly, yeah.
You don't know someone just because you're having sex with them. You don't know someone just because you're having sex with them. There's a big difference between chemistry and connection. Chemistry is not necessarily that's my soulmate. And I hear that a lot. I knew this person was my soulmate because the chemistry was strong. Chemistry is about sex. And sex is a wonderful thing, but it's not the basis for having a good relationship where you know somebody. You've got to get to know somebody as a person. They're a human being. They're not just an appendage.
You got to talk to somebody the other, not 4 minutes, right? Like, I mean, the rest of the other time, you got to, Well, I mean, I meant to double it. I mean, it sounded like a long time, but.
I think slowing things down. Yeah. You know what? You don't go from meeting someone and then you see them every single day for the first 3 weeks. You continue on with your life. You still see your friends. You might catch up with them twice a week. Yeah, no problem.
Right. It's not like liking something on Facebook and then suddenly every day you're just like, oh, hey, it's like too much of that energy in person can actually be sort of weird. Right? Like socially, a lot of us aren't able to handle too much of that energy. So it is sometimes a good idea to, my mom used to remind me.
Gives you time to process it. Gives you time to look at it clearly.
And it sends a different signal, frankly. Too much attention, too much time, too much even if it's not in the wrong way, is sort of perceived as like almost needy, almost right? Like it's a different.
It is. Yeah. Like it can be perceived as too needy, too much, too quick. Yeah. I mean, I know if someone wanted to see me every night when I met them like last week, I'd be like, whoa.
Yeah, pump the brakes.
I would go, that person's not for me instantly. Right, I would that would freak me out as a woman. That would freak me out.
As a man, that would freak me out as well. So
yeah.
Just so you know,
okay, that's
we're crossing bridges there for sure on that one. That's just freaky. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's, and everybody has different likes and dislikes, and we're not all the same, but I do think slowing things down, because I think in this day and age of social media, I think we speed up the courting phase, the dating phase, and it goes too fast and then it goes pear-shaped
right
just as quickly. Now, if you slow it down, not only because you never get that first bit again with that person. So if you sleep with someone too quickly, you never get to go back to not knowing what they look like when they're dressed. Like you never get to go back and get to savor that and enjoy it, and get to know their likes and dislikes. See how they treat someone, a waitress at a cafe. That to me tells me a lot about a person.
And for me, that's such a key for me, is to be able to see people interact with others.
Yeah.
That's like one of the most telling things for me is, oh, goodness gracious. If they're mean to people a lot, you're like, whoa,
yes.
What is this? No.
Exactly, exactly. Whether you're in a shop or a restaurant or anywhere, how they talk to their family or whatever, you get to see those interactions over time, and that gives you information.
Yeah. And you like, all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't know why they were abusive. I'm like, well, he punched out the dude in the store the one time. And then he's yelled at about 14 other people. Like, there was some telltale signs, I think, along the way.
Exactly.
All right, so
so we started with everyone's you pushed out on that one. I think we took a side detour.
But that's Agnes and Dan RadioStyle.
That's true. That's true.
Question number 3 though is kind of an interesting one. I'm just figuring. Girl meets guy, but ends very quickly, like in 2 days to a week. Also, just we don't thought transition. We don't need to get into all that, but like girl meets guy, doesn't work out. I'm assuming I'm going to make some fun up on this one. Let me
Go
add
ahead.
some color to this situation. Girl meets guy. The chemistry's there. It's great. 2 days later, crickets. What the hell? I don't hear anything. What did I do? Did I text him too many times? Did I what? Blah, blah, blah. So where's us pushed out? What do you think? Is there something? I don't know. Maybe that's
just because you like it ends in 2 days, the person has met you. So they've got a sense of you. They've got a feeling of you. They've got either they've been drawn to you or pulled back and repelled from you for some reason. Could be that you just are not their type, as in physically they don't find you what they have a preference. It might be that they were dating someone else, and because they were trying to make a decision, they saw you, they saw somebody else, and then they picked the other person. You don't know, but if you do find out, well, then you go, hang on. Then maybe it was me with my I'm second bestness going on and me I'm not good enough going on. It could be that is one possible scenario in that case. So
I would agree on all that too. Like that whole misery loves company thing. It's one thing where if you're one of those kind of everything sucks, like if you're in that life is always bad kind of mood, then you're gonna not want to be around people that are more positive and vice versa. So to your point, there could be that kind of thing.
Yes. And you might be the more positive one.
Right.
And you might be someone who doesn't drink, and that person really likes to drink and, smoke whatever they smoke, and you're not a vibrational match to that. So they go, a person's not my style. Now, that's not a negative.
No.
That's just you're not a match to what their habits are. So it could be that your self-love is actually something that they're not, their habits aren't up to speed with your self-love. So it could be that too.
Be happy you found out quickly, first off, really.
Yes.
Because saving yourself time, that's really awesome. 2, when people first meet, first date, first anything, like when you walk up to a stranger on the street, you don't walk up to him and go, I think about killing people all the time, right? Like you don't do that, right? Your whole premise is to put your best foot forward and basically pretend you're a normal civilized human being until they get to know you. And so again, the 2-day thing, sometimes we find a lot out about each other. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but again, it'd be happy that things don't work out quickly. Probably not.
Sometimes. Yeah, for sure.
And it could be, something you could be putting off that vibe. So I always think it's good to look inward first, but someone's asking about intuition on us pushed out. Like, I guess people, I don't know if you've ever had those moments where you kind of get a hankering that something's going to happen. You kind of get an idea in your head. You're like, hey, I wonder if this is going to happen. And then, like 4 seconds later, the person goes running across the red light or whatever, something crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you think there's any sort of tie-in? Do you think we sometimes just precognition almost anyway? Or we don't usually talk about this. I think I'm way on the crazy side here. I think you're a little more civilized.
I think they're separate things. I think they're separate.
Yeah.
Intuition is a feeling in your stomach. You feel something. And intuition is a feeling, a gut. They often say, I had a gut feeling. Gut feelings are intuition. Right. So you go, okay, that is separate to everyone's you pushed out, because everyone you pushed out is a photocopy of you. So if you're feeling I'm not attractive enough, no one's going to want me, then every time you go on a dating app and you try and meet people, you might make it to the first date, but then you'll never get a second date. So your underlying belief of I'm not attractive enough, no one wants to be with me because of that.
Well, and think of the people that
could be totally
have said
your perception.
I've
totally
read it before, but he looked nice.
Yeah.
How do you look nice? Was there a puppy licking his face? How did he do that? Because I want to know, how do you look nice?
I don't know. That's
we judge people by look, right?
We do.
It should have worked. It just looked.
But
he looked so nice.
Really, it's like he looked nice to me is probably a more accurate, or she looked
pushed
nice
out
to me.
I think that's where it's at. Like you somehow magically through a photo were able to attract the one guy that was not very nice. Interesting, right? So it is. I think the us pushed out thing is.
It's fascinating because you know what, Dan, I've got in my coaching time, I've coached about 3 models, like really attractive people. And these people did not attract people to be in relationship with. Now, from a, just a general belief system of most people, you think, oh, well, they're models, they should be able to get people. That's what most people think about models. They're attractive, they should get anybody. But no, it's not. It's not the more attractive people get the good relationships. It's the people that feel the best about themselves. I've seen some women that are a little bit bigger or a little bit, what we would call not traditionally beautiful, but they had very good self-love, very good confidence, and they have fantastic relationships. So it's how they feel about themselves. And there's the everyone's you pushed out again. They attract great partners because the partners, whether they're gay or straight, are attracted to how they feel about themselves and that they're not sucking love out of them. So that is what's attractive, not so much the physical is how you look is how you look. You're born the way you're born. You can't help it unless you want to go and try and do something about that. But, it's you work with how can I feel the best about myself in terms of security, peace, confidence about who I am, and work on that daily to become someone. And it's not just relationships you attract opportunities, you attract better jobs because you feel good about you, then people feel good to be around you, and that drags people to you.
And what we're doing in my mind right now is we're completely explaining how law of attraction works. That's the attraction part. It's basically what your energy what your energy situation's doing is what you're attracting. We're all floating around, blinging our own bling, bling noise, right? And looking for that right match. And all of that is done through some of these techniques we talk about, right? You imagine these people because it puts you into that feeling space, so you feel good, so you start blinging at that right frequency. Yep. And so we try to maintain that. Maybe some of us do meditation. We do the 55 times 5. We do whatever from the end, living in the here, doing the whatever, jump roping with people, like whatever you do, like your thing works. Then do it. But that's the point. It's meant to get you in that feeling, and it helps you do that. Yes, talk to me.
No, and you've made a good point about the law of attraction. It does fit in with the law of attraction. Everyone's you pushed out. But you got to take it a step back. The law of attraction really is not the first law in action. Wow. You have the law of assumption, what you assume about yourself, what you assume about other people, about your money, about your health.
Absolutely.
So law of assumption is the first thing you assume. Then the law of projection takes over. It goes out. Then the law of attraction picks it up, photocopies it, brings it back to you. So it's kind of the third law in line.
I agree. It's a component to it, is all I'm saying. Yeah. I'm not trying to say no. And I believe there's like many, many different laws kind of at work too.
There's heaps. Yeah.
So without a doubt, we're on board the same there. I was, I guess, oversimplifying it, and I think that's also good to call out, like you said, to take that step back. And you're right, because it's not all law of attraction, but certainly that energetics, for one, I think applies to all 3 of your laws, frankly. But it starts at what you project out, and that's basically it bounces off. It's what we call the ripple effect. So I'm shooting out this energy ray, and it goes bow and shoots back at me, and that's projection. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. You like the bow?
Can you do it one more? Do it one more time.
Well, I got hit by the energy. It came back.
I just got it.
The power of the internet, folks. That's what I'm talking about. Broadband will do for you. I'm just saying. Sorry. Yes. So that was Miss Hill, and she had some great questions. And I thought I had a couple. We'll see what we have time for. But this is one, and I think this is an interesting us pushed out concept, and I think it's timing, and I think it's a lot of things. But I'm curious, kind of where your take is, and just we'll chit chat. But you hear those examples of people talking about getting onto someone's social media platform, whatever it is, right? Whichever one, fill in blank here. And they happen to catch a photo or some moment of a third party.
Yes.
And maybe there's not a lot of text behind it. Maybe they're at Disneyland, right? Like, who knows? And we instantly, our mind starts racing about, all the different things that we're assuming are actually happening.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I guess I feel like the timing of it, the fact that I happened to look right when I did, like I could have looked just before they posted it, right? And then had another 12 hours, and maybe it got buried by another photo. or whatever, or I happen to be stalking them, whatever the case is. But I feel like we set up that timing. And then I feel like the projection of what's happening, we fill in the blanks. Typically, normal people's minds start wandering down the path of filling in all these facts that you do not have at all in any way, shape, or form. And most of it's not verifiable, but we make it up anyway because it's fun. It's fun. It's a game to play. And then all of a sudden, now we've got this opinion about something that we know nothing about, but we know everything. And so I guess that's where I think that's a huge kind of thing that a lot of us do. And I don't know, I was just thinking what you thought are, or you get people that do that.
No, I do think we instantly put on the betrayal glasses. You know, that's a third party. That could be a family friend. It could be your cousin that's showed up from, you know, South America to visit. It could be anybody. But if it's that person that's the gender that you're always a bit fearful of,
and they're maybe a little attractive, or maybe a little something that
and they could be a little attractive, exactly, you instantly interpret, and we jump to interpretations and we assign meaning to things. And I think this is one of the ways that we totally injure ourselves repeatedly over and over again, is by doing that.
And by the way, in my mind too, in this case, and this is something that frustrates me about like this labeling everything us pushed out. I agree that the projection, to your point, the projection is jacked up. What backed at me wasn't cool. But you've really got to take this step back and look at what's causing me to project this out. It's easy to say it's all us pushed out, but it's like, yeah, but you're not happy with you. Like when you look in the mirror, you're not seeing the rock star that you should see. And because of that, you're attracting all these haphazard people in your life that, you know, are challenges in any number of ways. Who knows? But you're always finding that they're just not quite right. Or maybe that specific person you're interested in, just you get close and then they drift away. And it's like, what am I doing wrong? And then it must be something maybe I'm not thin enough. Maybe I'm not pretty enough. Like we instantly go down this whole thing.
I know.
And it's not that you're projecting out per se. It's like maybe you still don't love yourself enough yet, or that vibration isn't high enough. And I think it's sad that a lot of us jump to conclusions for sure.
Yeah.
But then the other processes, what's wrong? Heal that. Love that part of you that needs a hug. And amazingly things change in your life.
I agree, because it's the base feeling, or the state, as Neville says, or the feeling place, as Abraham Hicks says. It's that basic place where you default when you see that. Did you instantly think that could be anybody, I'm just going to have my salad? Or did you think, oh my God, he's seeing someone else, when did that happen, he told me he was dating me? You know, you go into that. So depending on which way you go, okay, well, hang on, if I reacted to where I saw it, I didn't have a reaction, and I thought to myself, I'm just going to go and eat a salad, that could be anybody. That's someone who has good self-esteem, someone who has good self-love, and someone who feels pretty much first best in their own skin, not in an arrogant way, but in a confident way. The second reaction of, oh, you know, he said he was dating me and all that stuff, that went into fear, jealousy, second bestness, and insecurity. So you go, okay, if I interpreted it the second way, then that means I've really got to work on my self-love, and I've got to work on my I'm secure, because I don't feel secure at all. I've just jeopardized my security by seeing one photo, and I interpreted it without knowing if it was true. And then I tortured myself emotionally with the evidence of something that may not even be real.
Right. Now,
but that's tricky to do. It is tricky to do. It is. I'm not saying that that's easy, but you got to give yourself what's the word? Benefit of the doubt. You're not giving them the benefit of the doubt. You're giving yourself the benefit of the doubt so that you don't torture yourself emotionally. That's a self-loving thing to do in that instance.
And certainly if it's one of those situations where we talk about not going onto their social media, this would be another reason why you're generally better and easier not to. Because then you don't have to necessarily deal with these like moments where you're like, this is something that either A is happening, B, maybe sometimes there's context, maybe they're kissing, right? Like it's kind of
could be something like that.
Right? Like I'm not just saying in all situations you're incorrect assuming that they're with someone else. I'm just saying it is a projection, the timing, being attracted maybe to someone at that point. Like there's a lot of components that come into play.
There are.
Overly simplify every situation. But this was kind of one of those where I think a lot of us sometimes will jump to conclusions.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess we'll cover the first one. I'm choosing at least on these next two, and we'll see how much further.
Yep.
But a question I get a lot of, and it's not an easy one, and it's not one that we're necessarily going to answer here in a way that maybe will please anybody or everybody or some, but it is one of those parts of this whole us pushed out rainbow that many of us like to paint everything with this super big brush, right? Everything, well, it's us pushed out. It's all us pushed out. And a lot of people bring up some of the obvious ones. Well, what about robbers? What about killers? What about, baby snatchers? I don't know, whatever. What about abandoned clownfish, which, by the way, was Nemo. Finding Nemo. Everyone was missing that little fish, and it was very sad for a while. You laugh on, yes, but that fish was missing. Anyway.
I can't say I remember that part. I watched Nemo a long time ago.
Silly fish kept getting lost, apparently. I don't know. I don't know why they were looking for him. I really didn't watch him. But apparently some people were trying to find him, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Nemo. Anyway, so why do bad things exist in the world if it's just all us pushed out? I guess that's let's just jump on that crazy question, because it is really, it's kind of a very silly question. Like, you're trying to really establish a more micro world rule to a broader context. And I have my theories on that, and you have your kind of feel and view on it. We sort of shared it earlier, just so neither one of us would be surprised. But I think they're both different and unique, and also I think both valid, frankly, in my opinion. But anyway, so what are your kind of take on this whole, how does law of attraction exist if we've got all this horrible stuff in the world? How's that?
Well, I think Abraham Hicks explains this the best, and it kind of was the explanation that made the most sense to me. Was it's all energy. So, we have balance. So when you're in self-love, you attract self-loving people, right? So when the balance does that, when you're feeling like a victim and you're feeling that no one treats me well, people are bullies, people are cruel, whatever you got going on, you attract, as Abraham Hicks says, vibrational islands. So, Jerry once said, he said to Abraham in this particular conversation with Abraham, why don't we put all the murderers together on one island and they can just, be there with themselves? And Abraham said, we already have vibrational islands, but it's not the murderers with the murderers, or it's the victims with the perpetrators. That it's unfortunate how they explained it made sense to me, because we do have a collective consciousness, different countries, globally, within your own town, you have got collective consciousness. I mean, all we got to do is look at, down south in the USA, there's a collective consciousness there about certain things. Also, you look at, I look at my own country of where I was born, there's a collective consciousness around infidelity. Infidelity is like, so what? That's acceptable. We do what we want, even when people are married. Now, I haven't lived there for a long time, and I find that totally unacceptable. But that's my country's collective consciousness about being with people sexually. Okay, so there's collective consciousness in certain countries, in certain areas, but I do think that when you're looking at, like, the question you just asked about, those types of people, that the vibration and the energy brings things together. And when you're looking at energy, rather than this person's good, this person's bad, why, like that just looks, when you're looking at it, it just looks so unfair, and it is emotionally incredibly disturbing, especially if it's something that's happened to someone in your family or something that's happened to you. I mean, I just think this is such a minefield and such a big question. I think for people that want to discover that a little bit more and go into more depth with it. I think if you go to YouTube and put in Abraham Hicks, when bad things happen to good people, because there are lots of YouTubes, and you may agree, you may not agree,
that's a good
but
answer.
just listen to it to see what you think and see where you sit on what she says, because it's a huge issue. And I understand that the question comes from a lot of emotion and often a lot of feeling of being victimized, and it's unfair and all of that. But I just don't think it's something we can answer in a short one little bit of time. And also, it's not a simple question. It's a can of worms on its own.
Well, and there's so many scenarios under the sun. It's very broad in its context. Who's involved?
Yes.
Certainly, there are components energetically, like you brought up. So I love the fact that you covered really the parts that I felt about it. Really is that there's a collective consciousness aspect. There's a thing where we tend to end up where we're the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time. You know what I mean? And we just seem to
Dan,
find
talking
there.
about that, the example that comes to mind is people that they're about to catch a plane, they end up in traffic, they miss their flight, and then that plane crashes, and you go, hang on a minute, why did I miss that plane? Everybody, the three of us missed it, and the other 365 passengers made it. Why was I spared that, and why weren't they? Like all those really big questions about timing.
Right.
I mean, that alone, that whole thing about plane crashes, in terms of what we're talking about today.
Who did, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Who ended up on that flight? Who didn't? I think timing is one of my favorite things, even to the point of when you hit like a red light at an odd time. Like you're coming up, it's green, there's no one anywhere, but all of a sudden it throws a red on you. You're like, really? I thought I was more abundant than that. It's like, no. You're like, it's altering your timing just so when you end up at the coffee shop, the person right behind you in line or whatever is going to be like someone you need to talk to, or you're going to bump into someone at just the right moment. Like timing's a really neat thing when you pay attention to life and all those little weird nuances. And that's one of the things I get accused of often is I notice weird stuff. And I notice stuff. I don't know what other people notice, but I seem to notice stuff other people don't notice. But it is funny, the timings of life and how they work out. And
timing is amazing. And those split seconds of, it's like with every tragedy, you think people didn't get to work that day and they missed a terrorist attack, or this happened and they missed that.
A lot of accidents happened because I was just looking at the radio or I was just doing this and I was just for a second and oh my God, I turned my head for just a moment and this happened.
I know, and I got hit by lightning or, those amazing where you were just that 1 in a million second at the absolutely right place or the absolutely wrong place. So no, that is just a huge conversation, which I think it's not something that you and I can answer here, but I do think there's so much stuff on YouTube and Google about this one subject. Yeah. It's worth, if you're interested in it and it says something to you, that you go and have a look.
There's
a
myriad of theories. I mean, a lot of them maybe touch a little. Some of them are totally polars. I mean, polar opposites. But it's one of those things where I think to a degree you kind of have to come to your own place of comfort with it.
Your own place of comfort. Yeah, exactly.
It's a bigger issue without a doubt. And yes, it sucks. And so there's no way to, it's like just, if they just think positive, that wouldn't happen. Well, no, obviously it's a little broader than that. I think
it's broader than that. Yeah.
All right, the last one I'm going to go ahead and touch. We're getting a little long on the tooth, as they might say. But we're going to cover politicians. Like, there's a lot going on in the world. I don't want to get overly political because there's nothing good that comes out of that. So that's not my point.
Yeah.
But what I'm noticing, like in my country for sure, is there's the people that support the president and the people that just adamantly hate the president. And there's really just two polar extremes here. So it's very, very strange. You've got in Europe right now a lot of issues with the European Union and everything going on, the Brexit, and the fact that 3 countries are paying for a lot, but the other countries are, whatever. And you've got, I think, some interesting behaviors going on in New Zealand and Australia. And there's probably things going on in China and everywhere else. Russia seems to be rattling, and things are happening. Ukraine, you've got all this, right? So there's a lot going on in the world right now, change-wise. Like, how's that pushed out? Or is that, again, I mean, this is kind of more in that collective, but we seem to be steering these ships. And I guess that's where I'm leaning to a little in my direction is it's a focus-based universe, right? And I wonder often, anyway, and I'm certainly well aware of many studies that have been done on this, but when we collectively focus at one time. I think there's a power to that sometimes. I really do. It's why people
Definitely.
talk about
And
feelings.
the power of pushing against things, like the classic example is the one with Mother Teresa, that the quote of hers that that we've heard so many times, where she says, "I'm not coming to a anti-war rally, but if you have a peace rally, then invite me."
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the same. I mean, I move around to lots of different countries, as you know, 3 in particular. Now, it doesn't matter which country I'm in. Whenever people talk about politicians, the collective consciousness is they're just a pack of liars and they just do stuff for their own benefit. And that is a collective amongst the 3 countries I've been to. That is often the way that people, ordinary people, talk about them. So if you've got the collective consciousness of that, and you're looking at everyone's you pushed out, well, there's your photocopy. But they've been doing this for generations and generations. This isn't something new. So you think, okay, what were our parents thinking? What were our grandparents thinking about politicians then? And, so when you're looking at it as a scale of what has been passed down to you about politics and politicians, you think, okay, well, what do I think about it? What am I, projecting out? So it's like you can slice it in thinner and thinner slices to look at it, and it's fascinating. It is fascinating.
And I will say one thing, and this is a lot to you and probably a little less to me, just because it's, I don't know, I'm looking at it from a slightly different angle, but there's also the side of this where you don't really pay attention to it at all. And I'll say there is a wonderful, beautiful bliss of kind of removing, and it really is preferred behavior. I recommend it by far. And I'm not saying what I'm doing is, but I think the distinction, I think, just to keep it simple, is it's when you emotionally can detach from it. Then I think it's one thing, because now you're just watching it objectively versus watching it and having it emotionally charge you. And that's where I feel it becomes dangerous, because now think about that energy that you're blinging off is now of just a frequency that's attracting more of that. And I think from a collective standpoint, we start to create a different situation than we intend to. And so I do believe, without a doubt, and there is a collective power. And when you get enough people to focus on the same sort of thing, you can change the world in different ways. And it depends what you get people to focus on. So to me, there's an inherent power to getting a lot of collective thoughts at the same time. So some of that political stuff, I kind of wonder too, how much of it's meant to cause people to feel a certain way and behave a certain way and believe a certain way. And when you do that, they kind of self-herd versus, hey, wait a minute, why is this good for anybody? Like, like who's benefiting from this really? Isn't there other ways?
Exactly.
And I think
and you know what? There will come a time where someone starts a good news channel, and then I will go back to watching.
I did a Good News Weekly. I did like 10 episodes, 12 episodes. It was so barely watched relative to my normal numbers. I should retry it again, but it was fun to try to do. And I mean, it was a lot of work too. Finding good news stories, by the way, is a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I'll bet.
But yeah, you find good stuff and you throw it out there.
Actually, let's put it down below, Dan, because I mean, the fact that you did that, let's put it down below as a link.
I don't know. It was brutal. It was brutal, and it was forever ago. So I don't even, the news isn't even relevant anymore. But it was fun to try. We'll see. We'll get back into it one of these days. Well, Agnes, thank you. I mean, we covered it.
Excellent. Excellent. No, it's good subject. I think it's something that, people ask a lot about this subject, more so as they get to know about it, but it's learning about it in relation to you and what you've got around you, especially when it's things that are causing you disturbance or pain. If you can look at it in those situations to kind of dismantle, dissolve, and remove those situations from your life, that's when it's of value to you, to give you relief.
And again, I just want to step to the point that, again, a lot of us get so focused on what just got flashed back to us on the projection. I love, by the way, first time I'm hearing law of projection. I actually have never heard that. So I thought that was really, really cool. So very cool concept, and I love that without a doubt, because that's really what law of attraction is we're just rippling stuff out. So I like how it breaks it down into this law of projection, law of reflection, you said, and then law of attraction?
Law of assumption.
Assumption. There you go. Assumption. Okay, yeah. Okay,
law
good.
of projection.
Yeah, but the projection part I love because it really is what we're blinging out and sending out is what gets bounced back to us. So a lot of times we focus so much on the reflection and go, wow, it's just pushed out. You fail to remember, yes, but you caused that a moment ago with the initial projection. So what caused that? What caused the pain? What's causing that little part of you that doesn't think you're good enough or maybe thinks that some other situation or believes in some weird thing? Like a lot of times we have to look, why am I restricting myself? And I think that's where the power comes in. And I always tell people to embrace that part of ourselves rather than be upset and come up with all these affirmations like, how can I keep it from happening? It's like, don't keep it from happening. You heal that part. You fix that. You look at that part. You self-love that part. You do whatever you gotta do to make that part dissolve, basically.
Yep.
And then you don't question it anymore. Then it goes away just all by its very nature because you've healed it. And I think we fail to see the gift that sometimes malfunctions show us. You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of a good thing usually. Otherwise,
malfunctions.
I don't know why that's
the word. A good word.
But
it's a good word, a malfunction.
Sometimes it happens that way. But anyway, Agnes, you're the best. I'm glad we could do this. I think this is a topic that we could probably do 15 hours on, and maybe over the next 10 years, maybe one of these days we'll do an Us Pushed Out convention or something fun like that. But,
it sounds good. No, it's a great look. And there's also, Neville's done some YouTubes on Everyone's You Pushed Out. I'll put the links down below for those people that want to.
And you can watch those like 15 times in a row, and then it'll probably make sense at that final one. You'll be like, all right, I listened to that same sentence 12 times.
And Dan, have you got a playlist on Everyone's You Pushed Out? We'll put your playlist down below.
I don't have a playlist yet.
Okay.
I could do that though. I guess that's probably a good idea. I sometimes hate doing them too grouped because, you watch like 12 of them, and I've kind of like vary through time. I mean, it's still similar. But, I take it from different angles. It's like a different spin. Like sometimes I do videos on, if you're frustrated and you give up something, or if you're not, then if you're frustrated, well, then here's a way to increase it. Like I've done different angles of stuff, and people are like, well, you said in this video. I was like, well, yeah, but I was covering a different angle of it. I'm complex like that. But yeah, I'll put together that's a good idea. Good idea.
Someone wrote in the thread of a comment, in one of my YouTubes, I saw it today, and it said, Agnes, you're my favorite angle.
You are.
I love that. I think that I've never been someone's favorite angle.
Of the angles that are out there, you without a doubt are the aforementioned best, superest angle.
I love being an angle.
That needs to become the new, I'm going to remember that, I think. And the number one angle, Agnes Vivarelli, is joining me today.
There we go.
Angle. The angle, I love it.
Yeah.
Triangle. I don't know. That's one of the angles, but Agnes is the best angle.
Exactly. I just thought that is too endearing. I just loved it. I had to reply. I said, I'm grateful I'm your favorite angle.
I just consider this one of those gift moments in life because that's going to make it my stand-up book, probably, angle. I could see a few places I could go off on that. I think that is so freaking awesome. So thank you.
Well, I better go. I got someone
in someone the Zoom room. Dong in the Zoom room. Nice. Anyway, well, thank you, Agnes. I appreciate all your time and effort. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we'll say bye, and then I'll say bye to you quickly before I go. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
I hope you've enjoyed our organic nut session.
Without a doubt. Thanks. Bye, guys.